Did you know that there are portals in music theory that let you jump from one place to another? Well, I've prepared a little musical example that I want to talk you through so that you can use that technique in your own compositions as well. Let's jump right in. All of the chord structures, I have marked them in blue and I have written down the meaning. So that's a 7th chord, 11th chord. That is something I will explain in a second, this orange structures here. But let's just listen to this for the first time, and then I will go through some of the parts to give you a deeper explanation so that you can follow everything I did. Very fancy writing. But let's just grab some of the chord structures. The 4+4 in relation to a dedicated bass note, because the bass note puts the 4+4 on top in perspective. That's the thing to keep in mind. When I hit on my 11th chord right here, I just thought, okay, that's a good structure. Let's use this 4+4 here, the E and the A flat and the C, to go into some of the possibilities that a 4+4 brings. I want you to focus on the first major triad. Here it reads 2nd major triad, and here it reads 3rd major triad. All of those triads are connected in that you can take the 4+4 and you take any of those 3 voices and you lower it by just 1 chromatic step. Don't touch the other 2 voices though. So in this case, as you can tell, the C and the E, they don't change throughout the whole bar. But here the A flat goes down to a G. And this G, this little chromatic shift, makes this 4+4 into a C major triad. Now I'm picking my E note down here. I'm not touching these 2 guys. And I'm lowering my E just by 1 chromatic step. And this brings me to the A flat major triad right here. And then for the 3rd one, I'm grabbing my last remaining note, which is the note C, and I'm lowering this guy, and this brings me to an E major triad. So these 3 major triads, guess what the relation is between those? Well, it's a root cycle 4. C major going 4 up, E major going 4 up, A flat major, and then the next structure would bring us back to the C. So that is really, really great. And this relation, this can work to your advantage. And that's the moment where I want to shift your attention to this string here. And that is really the beginning of working with strings. So this horizontal formula, this was just a line that I whistled, okay? And I determined the formula. So the formula itself is not special, really, but the starting point, this is special. Right here I'm starting on a G sharp. So what happened if you shift that starting point by 4? In this case, by 4 downwards. Then I start on an E, but the horizontal formula doesn't change. It doesn't change. It's the same string right here. Then take the starting point, shift it again, shift it down by 4, and this brings you to the note C. I'm playing this actually in an octave position here, but that was my thinking behind it. And this is a little variation because following the rule of 3 from songwriting, really, you don't want to repeat your motif or your main idea 2 times without any variation, because when you hear it for the 3rd time, it starts to become boring as hell. And that's exactly what your brain will tell you. For the first time when you hear it, then you think, oh great, that's a new musical fragment, something I can pick up. Oh, cool, I'm loving it. So when I go to this repetition, it sounds familiar already because I'm just repeating it with a little shift. But the core idea hasn't changed at all. So when I would have repeated the same thing again here for the third time, this would have been the moment where your brain kicked in and said, well, this is boring, give me something new. I know what's going to happen. And then this little guy, this is also interesting, this segment. So I wanted to keep that rhythm going that I had down here. And as you can tell, this is the same notes. I'm just using the same notes in a different register. And this is exactly how I would sketch it. So that's my piano sketch. When it comes to the orchestration, this gives you plenty of options, which means you can use the horns with, let's say, the trombones down here. And then the moment you come to this guy, bring in maybe the trumpets with this pivot point here. That's my 4+4. That's again a 4+4, the blues structure. And you can use woodwinds that pick up the same rhythm from the brass down here. And this is just interesting orchestration because you're taking your ideas, your elements, and you put it into different registers and use different colors so that it remains interesting for the brain. Right here, this is also interesting. I just shifted everything up by 1. So that's exactly my same structure from here, but shifted up by 1. And then I wanted to come back originally to these notes. But guess what? I did not want to hear the shift down again by 1 because I wanted to have the energy keep rising to the top. I'm just using a position change of my original structure. So here it's from the bottom to the top, E, G sharp, and C. And then right here, the same notes, but starting on a G sharp. So in this context, you have the idea, okay, the motion goes up. Actually, it doesn't. It is really something like a returning structure. Draw a black box around this guy, make a copy paste, shift it up by 1, then copy it again, and bring it down by 1 again. So that's your returning structure. You start off into one direction and you come exactly to the point that you've used as your starting point. You might ask, okay, what are these little 16th notes right here? This is just following my pattern that I introduced right here, That is just the idea. Okay, I had something in the beginning, so let's draw a big arc to the end. And for that reason, I wanted these 16th notes to appear right here again. The red ones, that's also a 4+4. So I'm stacking my 4+4 pivot points on top. And I just did it in a way so that I don't create any 13ths. That's all. I just looked at the notes, like the 7th chord, and then I looked, okay, what if I held this guy? Oh, no 13ths, great. So let's close that gap in between. And let's see if a position change does the job. And voila, it does. That was my base of thinking here. So not really complicated. So that being said, let's just have one more listen to this guy. And I want you to pay attention to these little changes here and how they connect to the string on top, because they always stay in the same relation. This is almost like composing on autopilot, because once you have found your main idea, these other things, they just fall into place. Because this is technique. I composed only these 2 bars here. And then this falls into place, and here I just used some variation. You might have heard me say, I'm not afraid of using a C major triad. Well, it's the technique that gives the confidence and leads to sophisticated results. So please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss any of the future videos. And I will see you in the next one.